You must all be wondering about the hype related to regenerative braking. Let's have a look. Our friends at SEE Sustainability were looking to shift to a combustion car and were seeking answers to a few questions. Combustion engines should literally drip with sweat or oil or whatever when asked for comeback on regeneration. They literally have none. How crazy is that? Electric vehicles actually charge themselves every single time you decelerate. Now it is up to the programmer whether it is while braking or release of accelerator pedal. We will come to that in some time. One of the most important gains which EVs have over traditional internal combustion engines is that we can recuperate the energy lost in braking by converting the kinetic energy to electrical energy. The important function which a motor controller plays in the regeneration is stabilization of the DC output to the battery. The rate of deceleration and braking will never be constant. The resulting output will be directly proportional to the rate of deceleration, thus we need line regulation and the motor controller provides it. Let us understand a bit about regeneration. A traditional braking system is generally based on mechanical wire-based systems or hydraulics. When you press the brake pedal, the mechanical energy is transferred in a hydraulic circuit. The force is multiplied by leverage and vacuum boosters. Then this is applied to the calipers which have pads which catch hold the brake disc or the rotor. In this process, the kinetic energy possessed by the system in a rotational form is dissipated and liberated in form of heat. This energy leaves the system and is a total wastage. If we use this energy by some mechanism, convert it to a form which can be useful, we can add in more kilometers and we can churn out more distance from the same energy. Please understand, we are not creating or making energy. How much ever technology advances, we cannot mend the laws of thermodynamics. We always learnt as kids that energy can't be created nor be destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another. This still holds true and will continue to remain so. We are just converting the kinetic energy in rotational form to electrical and then to chemical. Let us see how exactly this happens. We have actually touched upon this in our video related to motor fundamentals. A motor can also act as a generator. Again, recalling that if a conductor in a changing magnetic field will have a EMF developed in it. The direction is determined by Lenz's law. This is the back EMF. This voltage is put to use by charging the battery. This EMF will result in a current which we can supply to the battery. But charging a battery is not simple. The straightforward, especially lithium-ion battery as explained by Jayesh and Vinayak. The most basic condition is of course we require a voltage higher than the battery voltage, else current won't flow. We also have a constraint about the profiles for current and the voltage which is CCCV. Now to manage this we add a boost converter where the voltage source is the back EMF and the load is the battery as a power sink. The voltage booster circuit with the help of PWM control of the switching device can manage the profiles for the charging voltage and current. If we visualize this circuit, it looks somewhat like this. It is made up of voltage source, an inductor, a switching device, a diode, a capacitor in parallel, and eventually the load. Aren't these the exact same elements which eventually make up the motor controller? When a suitable current path is identified, these elements exactly fall in order for the boost circuit to be a part of the motor controller circuit itself, but in the opposite direction. The voltage is the back EMF, the inductor is the motor coil, the switching element is the IGBT, the diode is the freewheeling diode, the capacitor is the DC link one, and the battery is the load. We already have it amongst us. It just the matter of sizing of these components and the control strategy. Mind equals to blown. Therefore, without the addition of any circuitry, we are able to regenerate energy which was going to go waste in form of heat. Regeneration is so inherent to electric vehicles that we don't have to do much. It just happens. We are accustomed to the fact that the sales executive at a car dealership, when asked कितना देती है, to tell us two mileages or fuel averages, one for the highway and other for the typical city driving. The city driving mileage will always be higher than the highway driving. One characteristic which is very core to electric vehicle is that they are behaviorally different in energy consumption pattern relating to driving conditions compared to combustion vehicles. For electric vehicles, the energy consumed per kilometer will be higher for highway driving compared to city driving. But the wonderful fact is to bring to a level playing field of rupees per kilometer. For two similarly sized vehicles, electric vehicles win hands down and by quite some margin. If you want to know how much, do check out the article Does Buying an Electric Scooter Make Sense on Nextloop.in? Yes, it's a seamless plug. As always, I have some data to prove my point. Drive cycles are data sets which can be identified as average load a vehicle undergoes. Well, it's still an approximation as the driving pattern of the person, the city, the road, the condition, the weather, and many other variables are part of the equation. But this is the closest we can get to generalization. Most OEMs use drive cycles like these from various sources to make predictions and calculations for loading conditions for the concept of the vehicle. The best measure of the driving pattern can be the speed at which the vehicle is being driven. Thus we plot the vehicle velocity versus time curve. Let's have a look at some of them. This one is the Artemis urban drive cycle. I would like you to offer the trend, the frequency of the peaks and troughs. This is the FTP75 cycle for urban driving as well, a similar pattern of occurrence of mountains and valleys. Now, if we turn our attention to highway drive cycle, more or less a constant velocity is observed. The curve is plateauing once it reaches high speeds. The variation is within a certain band. And this is the HWFET drive cycle, which is even more flat compared to the previous. The point I want to make is that while driving on highways, we are very less prone to constant acceleration and deceleration cycles. We try to maintain a constant speed while driving on highways. Occasional overtakes or coming across a busy locality are the only factors which lead us to change our speed. While driving on a city road, you will have a constant barrage of speed breakers, traffic signals, bumper to bumper traffic snarls, etc., which demands constant changes in speed. Now, if we relate this to our discussion regarding regeneration in EVs, it is clearly evident that city driving gives us more scope for recuperation. Every time your vehicle is decelerating, we are generating and as a result extending our range. Now, some other factors that make using EVs more efficient in the city is that the motor's most efficient RPM bands are mid bands. They are not most efficient at higher RPMs. The energy demand increases significantly in such situations. Also, we don't have a multi-speed transmission in EVs for reasons discussed earlier. Combustion engines try to run in their most efficient band by changing the gear ratio. To conclude, we can clearly see that EVs are more efficient in the city than on the highway. But overall, it's still much better than any other gas guzzler vehicle.